The Profit Constructors presents a 9.5-part guide to the basic data and reporting in Knowify. Part 3, Budgets versus Actuals, Data and Reports.
Welcome back. In this part of the series, we are talking about the budgets versus actual data and reports that we can pull out of Knowify. So let's take a quick look. If we're on this main home screen, from here, one of the first places that we're going to look, and we chatted about this a little bit in our last session where we were talking about profit and loss, is once again right here on this contracts screen. If we're looking at this great profit and loss data, we can dig down into that just a little bit and we'll begin to see budgets versus actuals. So on the revenue side, we can see what our total contract is and see what we've billed. So contract total versus what's been brought in and recognized as revenue. And then breaking that down even just a little farther, we can see what's been invoiced and retained. Okay, so all of that data about what our budgeted contract is versus what we've already billed and what's being held in retention can be seen right here. And then on the cost side, we can see our total cost budget, and then we can see each individual budget broken down by materials, labor, and subcontractors. And then we can see the actuals that are posting against that. If we want to dive in just a little bit more, one of my favorite places to do that is on the plan and track page, where we can see some similar information, but laid out in a way that's maybe a little bit easier to sort of compare side by side, which is that budgeted data versus, in this case, committed data. So that would be anything that's on an open purchase order, and labor that's being tracked out there as committed labor. So we have budgeted versus actuals, or committed again. If you do see the word actual here in your version of Knowify, which is a setting that you can set on the back end, that means that we are excluding anything that's on an open purchase order. So just, the little bit of difference in the naming convention there. But if you do see this word committed, that means everything that we've been invoiced for, we have an open or we have a receipt for, or is on an open purchase order, is showing up in this committed line. So we can see where we may have under budgeted because perhaps we expected a lot less in subcontracting, and it looks like we ended up having to hire more subcontractors than we thought we would. But maybe that's because we were subbing some of this labor out that we thought we were going to be performing ourselves. But this is where we can get into really seeing that. And we also can see budgets versus actuals for all of our labor. So we can see how much budgeted labor we have versus how many hours. And I'm talking about in hours now, not even just in dollars. We can see how many budgeted hours we had versus the actual hours spent. All of that can be seen right here on this plan and track page. If you were watching in our profit and loss version of this or session in this series, you may have seen that I pulled down this profit and loss report, and I'm going to pull it one more time for this. And we can see that, let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. Also on this, what is called a P&L report, we can also see our budget versus committed and then see a variance. So this is also very good information for us to see budgets versus actuals, or in this case, committed. So that's meaning including our open POs, remember, and the variance. So that P&L report is great. It can serve both purposes. We can see that profit and loss information, but we also see the budget right side by side with that, and can give us our variance and tell us some really good information about where we stand currently in that project. And then last time also, when we were talking about P&L, we pulled down the advanced jobs report. And so if you'll remember, that report emailed to us. And so we'll pull that up out of our email. And we can see that even on this advanced jobs report, we can get some really good budgets versus actuals data across the board for a number of jobs at the same time. So rather than on the P&L, we're just getting one job at a time. On the advanced jobs report, we can see a number of open jobs, and we'll see our contract, we'll see what we've billed. And then of course, across those subcategories that we're talking about, labor, materials, and subcontractors, we'll see our cost to date versus budgeted and what's remaining. So some really great budgets versus actuals data that you can get out of Knowify. What is there to know? Well, how is our job performing against our original budget? Very important for us to be able to budget future jobs and to be able to manage jobs as they're happening. And why do we want to know it? I just said, right? I gave it all away. We want to know how we can budget better in the future. And we also want to manage jobs as they're in progress and see if there are any change orders that we need to create because we're going over budget. We also may want to see where we're coming in well under budget and analyze why that may be. Maybe we well over budgeted something like labor. And those are good analytical tools to have. So we want to know how our jobs are performing against our original budget, and we want to know it so that we can manage the jobs better and bid future jobs even better. Next time, we're going to be talking about how we get that contract value in there and how does it look on the AIA billing. See you then.